Before we get started on the Dharma talk, please join me in invoking the Buddha's name 3 times. Namo Shakya Muni Buddha. Namo Shakya Muni Buddha. Namo Shakya Muni Buddha. Good afternoon, Venerable monastics, dear Sangha. Continuing on with the Dhammapada, we are still on chapter 5. Today we'll be discussing verse 66 of the chapter, the full Balavaga. As usual, I'll give the verse, the story, and the commentary. So verse 66 goes, "Fools of little understanding have themselves as their own enemies, for they do evil deeds which bear bitter fruits." Again, fools of little understanding have themselves as their own enemies, for they do evil deeds which bear bitter fruits. Unlike the majority of the verses, or the story of the verses, the story actually isn't directly related to the verse. The story is related to events that relate to past events of what had happened and why it happened the way it happened. So at the end of the story that I'm about to give is the reason why this verse was given. But the verse was about a disciple of the Buddha called Suppabuddha, who was a leper. And at the time, he was, of course, very poor and decrepit, obviously, as leprosy is a debilitating disease. But there was one occasion when he went to Jadavana Monastery, Jadagrove Monastery, and heard the Buddha give a sermon. And he sat in the back, of course, by himself. But he heard the Buddha give a sermon, and he had attained Sotapadana, stream enter, first stage of enlightenment, just on hearing the words of the Buddha, of the Dharma talk that he was giving. And so after the Dharma talk was given, Suppabuddha was on his way back to discuss his realizations with the Buddha. And as he was walking, Shakya, one of the Deva realm kings of the 33 heaven, Trayamstrimsha heaven, who was also actually Sotapadana. But he had a habit of testing Buddhists, testing disciples of the Buddha. And so he had come down disguised as a rich man and approached Suppabuddha and told him that you're so poor, you have no family, no wealth, no care. If you renounce the Buddha and say that, renounce that the Buddha isn't, renounce the Buddha basically, right? Renounce the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha, renounce the 3 jewels. That would give you unlimited wealth. You never have to worry about money ever again. You never have to worry about your care ever again. And so Shakya told him that if you just renounce the Buddha and say, Buddha Buddho na Buddho, Dhammo na Dhammo, Sangho na Sangho. No, there is no Buddha, there is no Dharma, there is no Sangha. And so Subba Buddha just stared at Shakya like, what are you talking about? I'm not poor. I don't have nothing to care for me. I have the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha as my wealth. That's immeasurable wealth, more wealth than you can ever imagine. And told them to have, and he told Shakya to have the Aryadanas, the 7 attributes of a noble person, or the 7 7 treasures of a noble person. And those 7 treasures are confidence, saddha, morality, sila, shame of doing evil deeds, hiri, fear of doing evil deeds, learning, generosity, or actually not generosity. Word is chagga. Chagga is more like a renunciation. So renunciation and wisdom. These are the 7 treasures of a noble person. And so he told Shakya that I have these 7 attributes. Why would I ever want anything else other than that? Why would I want immeasurable wealth when I have all the wealth that I have, right? Because he has confidence. A noble person, or a person who has realized the Dharma, has full confidence, full faith, perfect faith in the Dharma. There's no reason to renounce anything. He knows, right? Or the enlightened know, the Sotapantanas know, the Arhats know, the Bodhisattvas know, the deeply realized individuals know, right? We know that we have full faith in the Dharma, full faith in the Buddha and the Sangha. So there's no reason to not have confidence in the practice. And he has sila, morality, right? A noble person cannot lie. There's no reason to lie, right? To lie means to disgrace the mind, to defile the mind even further, right? Even the notion, even if Subba Buddha had just pretended to renounce the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, even that alone was not worth it, would not be worth it, right? And then he has hiri. Hiri is, there's a couple of different translations. One of the ones that I saw was disgust in doing an evil deed. I think disgust is kind of a heavy word, so it's shame in doing evil deeds, right? So you know that the deeds that you do or you know that the evil deed you're about to do is an evil deed. You know that this is unwholesome, right? You have an aversion toward the act of doing an evil deed, an unwholesome deed. The 4th attribute, the 4th treasure, is the fear of doing evil, right? So now we have fear of the consequences of doing that evil deed, of the unwholesome deed. So it's not enough to just feel shame or to feel this disgust toward doing an unwholesome act or a thought or speech, but also to fear the results of doing those actions, right? For those that have taken precepts, you have precepts for a reason, you have the vows for a reason, and to do something that would defile those precepts and those vows should bring a sense of shame to yourself. Not in a sense that you should feel bad necessarily, but in the sense that you've taken a vow, you've made a promise to yourself, I shall not do this, I shall not take life, I shall not lie and steal and take intoxicants and commit sexual misconduct. Or anagadika vows, or monastic vows, or bodhisattva vows, right? These are self-promises to yourself. And so if you're going to sit here in a ceremony, making these vows in front of the entire assembly, in front of the spirit of the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas and the monastics and your Dharma brothers and sisters, you sit there and you make a vow, I promise not to do this, because I know the consequences and the results of committing these acts, heinous acts, will result in negative karma, negative results. And so then you go and do them. So there should be an act of shame, a feel of shame, a disgust in yourself for committing such atrocities, right? Then the fifth attribute is learning, or sutta. Not sutta, two T's, like sutra. The sutta here means, sut means ear, right? So the core of the word means to listen, to know, to learn, right? Because as practitioners, right, we learn by listening. We're all shravakas, we're all voice hearers right now, right? We're hearing the words of the Dharma, you're hearing the words of the Buddha, whether it's through me or through the abbot or through Quang or whomever, right? The words of the Buddha, you are listening to the words of the Buddha, you're listening to the Dharma. So we are all shravakas. And so an Arya, a noble person, has attained the realization of the Dharma. In this case, for Buddha, when he attained Satipatthana, right, he had realized the Four Noble Truths, the four foundations of mindfulness, and the three characteristics of impermanent suffering and non-self. The sixth attribute is renunciation, chaga, right? Chaga renunciation, or sometimes it's generosity, but not generosity in the sense like dana, right? The generosity of giving. This is the generosity of being able to let go, right? Because one of our main kind of goals in our practice is renunciation. Renunciation of our suffering, renunciation of our desires, renunciation of the things that cause us to, that add on the defilements to the mind, right? To renounce these things that we know brings us suffering. So there's a whole list of different types of renunciations in Buddhism, which I don't have, nor do I want to go over. But that's generally speaking, right? It's the renunciation of wrong view for the most practitioners, right? It's wrong view. Wrong view is the very first, the Eightfold Path. And it's the very first because it influences all the other Eightfold practices, right? Because if we have right view from the very get-go, the very beginning, then we don't have to worry about having wrong speech, wrong action, wrong livelihood, wrong intention, wrong concentration, wrong mindfulness. If we have right view, noble view from the very beginning, then everything else falls into place correctly, right? There's not too much work that needs to be added. Because what we're doing right now is we're trying to reprogram the way we think, the way we act, the way we react. Because we're experiential beings, and throughout our entire lives, we have all these perceptions, we have all these ideas, these discriminations, these belief systems, etc., etc. And the majority of them are wrong, right? And so to try to overcome that, to try to override that, it's going to take a lot of practice, a lot of work, right? So we have wrong view already. And so to try to create right view takes time. It takes the effort of an Arya, a noble person. The last attribute, the seventh attribute, is wisdom, prajna, right? And this is directly related to the realization of nirvana, right? So the realization of suffering and the end of suffering. That is wisdom. That is the entirety, not the entirety, but that is the big chunk of the type of wisdom we want to attain in Buddhism, is the realization of nirvana. By realizing the cessation of suffering and the causes of suffering. So anyway, that's the seven attributes. But Buddha told Shakya that I have these attributes, I have these aryadanas. I don't need material wealth. I don't need material status. I don't need people or family to take care of me, to take care of me, right? Because he was a leper. And so Shakya was satisfied with the answer, satisfied that he didn't give in. So he went and told Shakya, went and told the Buddha of what had happened. And the Buddha was like, yeah, obviously, like someone like Supa Buddha would not fault to your little test because of the type of person he is in his past deeds. And then finally, Supa Buddha came and made it to the Buddha himself and retold the same story of what had happened, and Buddha just acknowledged that. Or not acknowledged, but confirmed his attainment. And then unfortunately, on the way back home, he had passed. So the Buddha had been killed by a wild cow that was actually an evil spirit in the past life, because the spirit is someone that, so the Buddha in a past life had murdered and stolen their possessions, and this spirit, this female cow, came back and took revenge and killed the Buddha. That's beside the point, I doesn't care. But anyway, this is a little extra tidbit of the story. So that's the actual part of the story that's relevant to this verse. Is once word got back to the Jadavana, to the Buddha, that the Buddha had died, the other monastics or the other disciples asked the Buddha, why was Sutta Buddha born in this life as a leper? And the Buddha had told them that in a past life, Sutta Buddha was, I forgot if his name was ever mentioned, but he was a Brahmin. And at the time, he was walking somewhere and he had saw a Prateka Buddha, right, an enlightened solitary Buddha. And as a Brahmin, he felt, let me use the word disgust this time, toward that Prateka Buddha and spat on him. And that act of spitting on the Prateka Buddha, an enlightened being, right, caused such negative karma, and that he was reborn as a leper. But once he had died in this life, after attaining Satipatthana, he was reborn in the Deva realm. So anyway, it is because of the past life of Supa Buddha that this verse was given, that even fools with little understanding have themselves as their own enemies, and they do evil deeds which bear bitter fruit. And so kind of the moral of the story of this verse includes the understanding of karma, right? It's because of past karma that Sutta Buddha, because he spat on an enlightened being, right? Even though he didn't kill him, it's not one of the grave offenses, right? The 5 great offenses in Buddhism, but it's such a heinous act to do to someone that is highly realized, highly respected, that he caused such severe negative effects to himself. So that's the story. It's an interesting story. It's not a very cool story, but it's an interesting story. But anyway, but kind of the moral of the story, right, teaches us or reminds us that our unwholesome deeds, especially when it's done out of ignorance, right, inevitably carries that negative consequences. And this doesn't necessarily have to do anything too much with past lives, right? Because even the Buddha recognized that to blame everything on past lives folly, right? There's no point in trying to use karma, past lives, to make sense of everything in this present life. Instead, just look at your present life, right? Look at what we have now. Look at what you have now. Look at what you know, what you can do, what you know, what you don't know, and just worry about that, because that's all that matters now, right? It's not our past lives, not our future lives. We have no control over the past and no control over the future. So to think and to carry that on makes no sense. And so, because worrying too much about past life doesn't make any, it's nonsensical, right? Whether past lives existed or not, the Buddha is reminding us that that we are responsible for crafting our own happiness, or crafting our own suffering. And that fools fail to recognize this. Fools are the ones that fail to recognize that we are responsible, or you are responsible for your own happiness and your own suffering. Right? To blame this or that, him or her, for suffering makes no sense. Right? And it underlies that unwise individuals, right, unwise practitioners, are not victimized by fate. Like, oh, it's in the stars, I'm supposed to suffer, right? It's fate. It's fate. My fate is carved in stone. I'm just gonna have a terrible life. I'm just supposed to be poor all the time. I'm supposed to be allergic to the sun or something. I don't know, right? But rather that we need to contribute to our own. That they contribute to their own downfall, right? Through ignorance and poor choices. Meaning that we cannot blame God for all our downfalls and negative consequences that we have in life, right? Because it's easy to blame something that's unknown for our problems. It's easy to forgive a mass murderer. Like, oh, you just have to be forgiven and all that goes away. Well, that's great. Be forgiven, right? Forgive. That's a good thing. But the act of them killing doesn't go away. The lives that they killed doesn't magically come back because they were forgiven. It still happened. So we can't blame some far-off being in the sky for all our problems, even though it's the easy way out. Do all these terrible things, like, I just have to be forgiven. Or to blame God or whomever, right, for all the suffering in the world. Oh, there was a plan. All this was a test. Really? What? Really? Trying to decide what I want to say next. But the point kind of is, we have to take responsibility of our own actions. We have to take responsibility of the consequences of your own actions, whether internally or externally, right? Whether hidden or unknown, known or unknown, right? Hidden or visible. Even when we do something bad and you think you'll get away with it, sure, maybe nobody notices, nobody catches you, but internally, mentally, karmically, it's still there. It knows, right? In your own consciousness, you knows you did a misdeed. That's why we repent, right? That's why we have repentance ceremonies, because when we repent, we're acknowledging that we did misdeeds. We're acknowledging that we've said, thought, and did unwholesome acts. And so we're repenting for it, to promise ourselves to reintroduce the precepts or the vows that we've taken, and tell ourselves, well, I did something bad, unintentionally, I hope, and that I will promise to attempt to avoid doing it again in the future. That is the whole purpose of repentance. It's not to be forgiven, because no one's going to forgive you. The Buddha isn't going to forgive you. The Bodhisattvas are not going to forgive you. The monastics can't forgive you, right? We don't even know what you did wrong. So what was the point of trying to forgive, right? This isn't confession. It's just the simple act of acknowledging that we did something, we committed something unwholesome, or we broke a precept intentionally or unintentionally, and we are making a promise to ourselves, we're revowing our commitment to our practice. That is the whole purpose of the repentance ceremony. It's not to be forgiven. No one's going to forgive you. Because what you did is already done. You've killed someone, you've killed someone. You can't bring it back. You've stolen something, you've stolen something. You've lied, you've lied. You can't take that back. You commit sexual misconduct, you broke up a family, or you've cheated or gotten cheated on. Or you drunk and did drunk driving, or driving under the influence of alcohol or drugs. All these things you've done, right? You can't take it back. Because we can't take it back, it's the whole point of repentance is to acknowledge that. I can't take back that life I took. I can't take back that lie I said. I can't take back the whatever else they've committed. But what I can do is acknowledge that mistake and commit to not repeat it again in the future. Because no one's going to forgive you, right? But this is where kind of karma comes into place, right? Whether you have a belief in karma and the effects of past karma or future karma, it doesn't matter. To think that you just popped into existence truly makes you a fool. Because the theory of karma makes more sense, at least to me, than some divine being controlling your actions or controlling your fate, right? Because instead of saying, oh, the floods happened because God wanted that way, the Holocaust happened because God wanted that way, slavery happened because God wanted that way. It's such a cop-out, that's such a weak excuse for the actions of terrible people, for the actions of being what's the word for not being ready? Unprepared, right? Because the floods, even though it's a natural disaster, a big chunk of it could have been prevented. But we don't have the infrastructure, we don't have the correct people in place in here and there to have created the proper procedures to prevent such a horrendous death toll. Not to say that people wouldn't have died or houses wouldn't have been ruined, but a big percentage of it could have been prevented. The Holocaust could have been prevented. Slavery could have been prevented. Not by God, but by wise people. But these people don't have the concept of karma, don't have the concept of consequences, of cause and effect. And so they do things just out of sheer stupidity. Because they don't believe that their actions have consequences. And so when we do stupid things, breaking precepts, we're not following our path, we're not following the vows we've taken, we become those same stupid people. Not to say that we have to be perfect, right? I'm not perfect. I break precepts all the time, unintentionally at least, right? Or if the ones that I see as, never mind. But the point is that when we are in the world, right, we have to follow the purpose of our practice, to be aware, to be mindful of what we are thinking, saying, and doing. Because if you're aware enough and be mindful enough of what you think, say, and do, then you can prevent a whole array of problems in your life. Because the majority of people just react, no? They react habitually without thinking. I mean, just look at an argument. Look at people arguing. Look how fast the comeback is between the two. The second that one shuts up, the other one speaks up. Right? The quicker the reply is, the less time there's actually any thinking happening. But if there's a pause, if you are able to pause, right, and consider whether the speech, the thought, speech, or action is virtuous or not, is it harmful or not, then you have a better opportunity to make better choices. Yes? So anyway, whether we have a full belief of karma or not, cause and effect, right? It doesn't really matter. Whether you believe it or not, it doesn't matter. But at least we have to know that it's cogent, right? That it makes sense. Of all the theories out there about the world and the universe, at least to me, karma makes the most sense. It's not reliant on a super being. It's not reliant on belief or faith. It's simple cause and effect. And he gets hurt, he's going to have pain. Unless he's Superman, he's like, what was this fly that just flew in my face? There's consequences, right? Above that, not only is there pain, but then there's additional consequence on me, right? He could yell at me, he can attack me, he can report me to the police for assault. But in the heat of the moment, when I'm throwing this out of anger, I don't think about that, right? When people commit domestic violence, they don't think about getting thrown into jail because they're so heated in the moment. When people who kill, they don't think about the consequences of going to jail, being caught, or being, spending the rest of their life in prison or on the, what's it called? Death row. They don't think about that. If they did, maybe they would have made better choices. So make good choices. Okay. Questions, concerns, emotional outbursts.
One thing I would say that forgiveness but that forgiveness is not for the person who is for the person who is forgiven.
Correct.
That is meant for them because they are ending the cycle over there, and that's adding to the positive karma because they're not reacting whatever somebody did, murder or any bad karmic action the person did.
Right.
Forgiveness, I'm forgiving that person for me, for him.
Right.
It doesn't do it this time, but it goes to my karma because I ended that's what I'm But in terms of cause and effect, it's practical. It's everywhere. We see that the chemical reaction of sowing and reaping. Whatever we do, if somebody doesn't believe it, it's like in front of you, every single thing you do. It's very obvious thing. Like you take grades when you're in college and stuff. It's pretty practical. Why would somebody not believe it?
It's very true. Yeah, forgiveness in this case, the act of forgiveness in a very mundane sense for most people is if the desire to be forgiven, right, is simply the recognition that you feel shame about doing something and you want the other person to acknowledge that you feel shame. right? So if I hit you and I'm remorseful, I felt shame for hitting you, I'm going to feel bad. I'm going to ask you, please forgive me. Because if you forgive me, then you can acknowledge and I can acknowledge that what I did was, we can erase that, right? But that's one aspect of it. The other aspect of it is, if you're asking someone for forgiveness and they say no, then it gives them a sense of control, right? I'm not going to forgive you. I have control over your mental anguish right now, because you're not forgiving me. I'm going to feel, oh my God, he can't forgive me. I have to compensate to make you forgive me, right? I have to buy you flowers and gifts and take you on vacations and do this and do that, right? This is why people in relationships argue. What do they do after they argue? They overlove, they overstimulate with gifts and things and blah, blah, blah to seek that forgiveness. Because if you don't get forgiven, then that other person has a sense of control over you. Oh, I have control over you right now because I'm not giving you that peace of mind that you require. Same thing when people ask for forgiveness, when they go to church and ask for and do confession, is to make sure that God knows that they feel bad and so God can forgive them, or the priest can forgive them. Then they feel like, oh, okay, fine. That murder I just committed, now I can feel better about it. It's literally what's happening. So forgiveness doesn't make sense. In Buddhism, there is no true concept of forgiveness. Because instead of seeking forgiveness, you should just acknowledge that what you did was wrong, what you thought was wrong, what you said was wrong. That in itself is forgiveness. Because again, no one is forgiving you. You can only acknowledge and forgive yourself. And so the moment you recognize that what you thought, said, or did was wrong, unwholesome, unvirtuous, that is already an automatic forgiveness of self, of yourself. If that makes sense. Yes, sir.
This has had to do with you forgiving someone. I've thought about this as well. Like, what does it mean to forgive someone? To where you're, in the example you gave, you're asking for forgiveness, but then on the other side of now accepting that forgiveness. Would forgiveness, in the way I see it, kind of like getting rid of ill will and ill feelings towards the person and realize, oh yeah, this person messed up. And then now it's your choice, like, do I keep associating with them? Do I let them go? But it seems like the forgiveness is now on you. Because the reason why you're upset with someone is because they hurt you. And now to let go of that, okay, what's done is done. There's nothing I can really do about it. So you can either keep feeling bad about someone, some ill will towards someone, you can let it go, be like, all right, they're just a person. Now you can keep associating with them if you feel that they can be better, or you just let it go. It's like, yeah, I forgive you. Because I think with forgiveness, you don't always have to keep associating with who caused the affliction. You can forgive someone and still be like, yeah, I don't want anything to do with them.
Right. Leon?
You just said a lot there, a lot of great stuff. I guess I was thinking about forgiveness or it seems like that part of that is when we realize that the other person is suffering. So rather than saying, I have to forgive them, or maybe part of the act of forgiveness is recognizing that they're suffering and offering compassion. And so it's all happening within me. So I'm not depending on them to, if I forgive them, I'm not going to go, oh, thank you for forgiving them.
Right.
Because there's something that's internally in my own mind.
Right.
That made me think also precept, the first part of the word precept means before, right?
Right.
So we're thinking about setting up these precepts in our mind before we actually go out and think, speak, and act. So no matter what's happened in the past, we can't go fix that. All we can do is say, starting right now, I'm going to do it differently.
Right.
And make a choice to do things differently.
Right.
So forgiveness is something like some reaction happened, like this flood happened. Now we can't do anything about this flood, so we have to like make whatever we can do best to helping people. It's not like very similar example, but you can compare something happens, something's happening. So we just stop thinking about it. Okay, whatever happened, we don't associate it, we just stop.
Right.
Yeah, but we don't keep whining about it. Keep
Right.
cursing about it, keep cursing and keep getting involved. It's called resentment. You know, let the resentment go. Let it go. And just don't associate it.
Yeah, I see what you mean, Renee. It's like, well, why did this happen? How could this happen? Instead of thinking that's like, okay, now how can I
Move forward.
How can I
Where do you see the resentment go?
A true practitioner doesn't require forgiveness, I'll say that. If you're expecting forgiveness, you need more work. Because you have to think about it this way. Forgiveness isn't for you, for the most part. Whether someone else forgives you or not, it's none of your business. What other people think of you is none of your business. What people say about you is none of your business. So if you're sad about what they're talking about you behind your back, and you require them to apologize for it, you're the one that needs to apologize, not them. You need to apologize to yourself for feeling the way you feel because of someone else's thoughts or opinions about you. I tell them all the time. I tell Quang Yin all the time. That's not your concern. It's not your business. Whether he's complaining about something about family or someone else, I'm like, that's not your business. Because all you're doing is just digging that hole deeper and deeper into the mind and making it your business. And it really isn't.
We're pulling all that stuff in from the past and the future.
Right.
Things we can't do anything about and bring them into the present.
Right.
And then we wonder why we're so confused, right?
Right. There's so much junk out there, right? You're creating a hoard house, a hoard consciousness. You're just adding things to this house. You're hoarding all these defilements, all these tragedies that people are thinking, saying, or doing about you.
So you're giving them energy by thinking about it.
Exactly.
Don't think about it. They will disappear.
You're correct. You're just fueling that desire of whatever it is, or aversion to whatever it is.
And not only that, those thoughts may become speech and action, and that will cause the cycle of thoughts. It will come into your karma, and then it's just like you coming back karma.
Right. And to kind of go back to that, thinking if you think of a situation where you think someone should apologize to you and seek that forgiveness, and they don't, as you mentioned, then that starts to develop resentment. Oh, this person didn't apologize, didn't forgive me. You're going to hold on to that for something that, for all you know, could have been a mistake. Something that they said incorrectly was just misinformation. It wasn't wrong, they just didn't know what was correct. But because you believe that they're out there lying about you, about some misinformation, now you're holding that resentment against them for spreading this rumor or this lie, when to them, they didn't know it was a rumor or a lie. They thought this was fact. Right? That's why we just go and just let things be. It is what it is. Why do you care? Why do you care? There's so much freedom with not caring. Not carrying the sins of not being empathetic or having compassion, right? As we spoke yesterday in class, we require compassion. We should have compassion for those that are suffering, right? So even those that need, that want forgiveness or want apologies, these people are suffering. And so if you have to forgive them in order for them in order for their suffering to lessen, then forgive them. Forgiveness isn't for you. It's not your it's not your peace of mind. If you're already at peace, or you're already at a state of mind that doesn't require this or that, then it's not for you. Apologize for them. Let them be at peace. That is your compassionate act.
You could say something like, you want me to forgive you, but I don't need to, as you're a beautiful person. What is there to forgive?
Right.
Oh, well, I did this or that. Yes, that was an act, and it's not here now.
Right.
And so you bring it all into the present moment and you try to do it truthfully. A lot of things just take care of themselves.
Right. Right.
It doesn't get all complicated and go into these.
It doesn't require a lot of work. Yeah. But even if someone did something terribly wrong for you, right, as Quang mentioned, that is your decision to dissociate yourself with them, right? This kind of goes back to the why meditation. If you go why, and get to the core reason of whatever issue it is, and you find out the person caused you more suffering, or do you want to unfriend them, change the type of relationship you have with them, you know, whatever it is, it's in your hands.
Well, there's just like there's ill-being and well-being, there's good relationships and then not good relationships.
Right.
So we were trying to do all the transformations here, try to transform our relationships. But it made me think of something that I remember reading in the sutras, is that the Buddha, he said you should never feel like you have to be a doormat. Right? So you don't have an ego saying, I'm special, I'm better than everybody, but you can say, I am what I am, and I know what I need to be happy. And if I can be happy, I can help other people.
Right.
This person is causing me to be unhappy. I can't figure out what to do, so it's better if we just move apart.
Right.
And so we do it without emotion or anger or anything else. Right? It's just a matter of fact.
Correct. Right. Because when you're, it's very hard to do. Because that's our habitual reaction to things. Is we are reacting to things according to our past experiences, according to our own perceptions, according to our beliefs, our likes and dislikes, our pleasures and displeasures. That's 99% of the fuel of how we react to things. But that is 99% dirt fuel. It's like adding, it's like you putting sugar in your gas tank. That's what's happening. You're not putting clean fuel in. Right. Right.
I have to sue myself because I have to get something out of it. So that's how this false ego works.
Yep.
It's not like something it feels like, okay, I forgive you, and then I can end the cycle, but no.
Right.
I want to stop with my false ego. Say no. Go for it.
That's what the training does for us. It helps us catch that. Notice when we're slipping into that state.
Excellent. All right, and then we will go ahead and chant to the merit and go to chanting. Namo Shakya Moni Bodha Namo Shakya Moni Bodha Namo Shakya Moni Bodha. For any positive karmic action we've accumulated here today, we wish to transfer the merit to all sentient beings and wish them full enlightenment. ignorance in the censer now is burning all the Dharma realm in every place, auspicious clouds appearing. Our sincere intention thus fulfilling, as all Buddhas now show their perfect body. Homage to the incense cloud canopy, Bodhisattva and great Bodhisattva. In gratitude we offer this incense to all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas throughout space, and may it be fragrant as earth herself, reflecting our careful efforts, our wholehearted mindful, and the fruit of understanding slowly ripening. May beings be companions of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. May we awake from forgetfulness and realize our true home. Homage to the eternally abiding Buddhas, the supreme Dharma and sagely Sangha throughout the Dharma realm and the realm of empty and 3 periods of time. Homage to the fundamental teacher Shakyamuni Buddha Maitreya, honored future Buddha Manjushri, great wisdom Bodhisattva, universal great kind Bodhisattva, all Dharma guarding Deva Bodhisattva, and the glorious mountain assembly of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Homage to Amitabha Buddha in the land of ultimate bliss, Avalokiteshvara, great compassion Bodhisattva, great strength Bodhisattva, restore great vow Bodhisattva, and the assembly of great pure sea light Bodhisattva. vast, profound, and wonderful Dharma is difficult to encounter in hundreds of millions of eons. I now see and hear, receive and uphold it, and I vow to fathom the Tathagata's true meaning. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha, Namo Shakyamuni Buddha, Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. A pilgrim briefly in this world, I am grateful and joyful to hear the Lotus Sutra. How hard to be born a human egg, but I might hope to hear once more the Lotus Sutra. The Buddha moon is hid in the sun of my tray, not yet arisen in the long night's darkness. In between, only the Lotus Sutra sheds its light, the wonderful Dharma. Lotus Sutra, whoever copies it, reads it, lives it, they say will be called preacher of the fivefold Dharma. With his 6 truths cleansed in the end, he who chants the Lotus Sutra is guarded by a heavenly host. He wanders though without fear like a lion king. Namo Sadharma Pundarika Sutra, Namo Sadharma Pundarika Sutra, Namo Sadharma Pundarika Sutra. Page 132. The Sutra of the Lotus of the Wonderful Law, Chapter 24. The Bodhisattva, wonderful sound at the time Shakyamuni Buddha emitted a beam of bright light from the knob of flesh on top of his head, one of the features of a great man, and also emitted a beam of light from the tuft of white hair between his eyebrows, illuminating the Buddha worlds in the eastern direction, equal in number to the sands of 180,000 million ayutas of Ganges. Beyond these numerous worlds was a world adorned with pure light. In this realm there was a Buddha named Pure Flower, consolation, king, wisdom, thus come one worthy of offer, upright and universal knowledge, perfect clarity and conduct, well gone understanding the world, unexcelled word, trainer of people, teacher of heavenly and human beings, Buddha world honored, and immeasurably and boundlessly great multitude of bodhisattvas surrounded him and paid reverence, and forth reached the law, the beam of bright light from the white tuft of Shakyamuni Buddha illuminated the whole land. At the time in the land adorned with pure, there was a bodhisattva named Wonderful Sound, who long ago had planted numerous roots of birch, offering alms to and waiting upon immeasurable hundreds, thousands, and thousands, millions of Buddhas. He had succeeded in obtaining all kinds of virtue samadhi, the samadhi of the consolation king, sport the conditionless samadhi, the seal of wisdom samadhi, the samadhi that allows one to understand the words of all living beings, the samadhi that gathers to get all benefits, the pure samadhi, the samadhi of the sport of transcendental powers, the wisdom torch samadhi, the adorned king samadhi, the pure light glow samadhi, the pure storehouse samadhi, the unshared samadhi, and the samadhi of the sun's revolving. He has gained all these great samadhis, equal in number to the sands of 100, 1,000, 10,000, a million Ganges, when the light emitted by Shakyamuni illuminated his body. He immediately spoke to the Buddha, pure flower, consolation king, wisdom, saying, world honored, to the Saha world to do obeisance, wait on and offer alms to Shakyamuni Buddha, and to see Sattva Manjushri, prince of the Dharma, Bodhisattva, medicine king, Bodhisattva, brave donor, Bodhisattva, consolation king, flower, Bodhisattva, superior practices and medicine, superior Bodhisattva, wonderful sound, said to the Buddha, world honored one, my journey now to the Saha world is in all respects to the thus come one, a sport, thus come one's transcendental powers and adornment, to the thus come one's blessings and wisdom thereupon the Bodhisattva, wonderful sound without raising from his seat or sword of the samadhi, in a place not far removed from the Dharma seat on Mount Githakuta, created a jeweled mass of 84,000 lotus blossoms. Their stems were made of jambudana gold, their leaves were of silver, their stamens of diamond, and their calyxes of kimchuka jewels. At the time the Dharma Prince Manju, spying the lotus flower, spoke to the Buddha, saying, world honored, what are made 10,000s of lotus blossoms, their stems made of jambudana gold, their stamens of diamond, and their calyxes of kimchuka jewels. At the time Shakyamuni Buddha said to Manjushri, this Bodhisattva and Mahasattva, wonderful sound, wishes to leave the land of the Buddha, pure flower, consolation king, wisdom, and surrounded by 84,000 bodhisattvas, to come to the Saha world to offer alms, wait on and pay obeisance to. He also wishes to offer alms to and hear the Lotus Sutra. Manjushri said to the Buddha, world honored one, Sattva planted, what benefits has he cultivated that he can exercise such great transcendental powers as this? What samadhi does he carry out? I beg you to explain for us the name of this samadhi, for we too would like to apply ourselves diligently to its practice. If we carry out this samadhi, then we will be able to observe the aspect and size of this bodhisattva and his bearing and conduct. We beg the world honored to employ his powers to bring this bodhisattva here and enable us to see him. At the time Shakyamuni Buddha said to Manjushri, many treasures thus come who entered extinction so long ago will manifest his form for you. Then the Buddha, many treasures, said to the Bodhisattva, wonderful sound, come good man, the Dharma Prince Manjushri wishes to see your body with that Bodhisattva. Wonderful sound vanished from his own land 4,000 bodhisattvas appeared here in the Saha world. The lands that he passed through on his way quaked and trembled in 6 different ways, and in all of them 7 jeweled lotus flowers rained down, and the instruments, hundreds and thousands of heavenly musicians, sounded of themselves without having been struck. This bodhisattva's eyes were as broad as the leaves of the lotus. 100,000, 10,000 moons put together could not surpass the perfection of this face. This pure golden color, adorned with immeasurable hundreds and thousands of blessings. His dignity and virtue were his light shone brightly. He was endowed with many special marks, and as a stalwart in body as Narayana, taking his place on the platform made of 7 treasures, he had risen up into the air until raised above the earth, the height of 7 tala trees, and with a host of bodhisattvas surrounding him and paying reverence, he had journeyed to Mount Gidhakuta in the Saha world. When he descended from the platform of 7 treasures, bearing a necklace worth hundreds and thousands, he proceeded to the place where Shakyamuni Buddha was, bowed his head to the ground, made obeisance to the Buddha's feet, and presented the neck, addressing the Buddha in these words: world honored one, the Buddha, pure flower, consolation, king, wisdom, wishes to inquire about the world honored. Are your illnesses few? Are your worries few? Can you come and go easily and conveniently? Can you move about in comfort? Are the 4 elements proper, harmonizing you? Can you endure the world's affairs? Are the easy to rescue? Are they not excessive in their greed, anger, ignorance, jealousy, stinginess, and arrogance? Are they not lacking in filial conduct toward their parents? Are they not disrespect toward shamanas and given to wrong views and other evil? Do they not fail to control their 5 emotions? World honored, are living beings able to conquer and overcome the enmity of the devils? Has many treasures thus come on who entered extinction so long ago? Come to his tower of 7 treasures to listen to the law. The Buddha also wishes to inquire about many treasures thus come on. There he is tranquil and at ease with few worries, patient and long abiding. World honored one, I would like to see the body of the Buddha, many treasures. I beg the world honored one to allow me to see him. At the time Shakyamuni Buddha said to many treasures, Buddha, this bodhisattva, wonderful sound wishes. Treasures Buddha addressed wonderful sound, saying, excellent, excellent, you have come here in order to be able to offer alms to Shakyamuni Buddha and to listen to the Lotus Sutra and Siman Joshi and the others. At the time the bodhisattva flower virgin said to the Buddha, world honored one, this bodhisattva, wonderful sound, what good roots has he planted? What benefits has he cultivated that he possesses these supernatural powers? The Buddha replied to bodhisattva flower virtue, in ages past there was a Buddha named Cloud Thunder Sound King Tathagata Arhat Samyak Sambuddha. His land was called manifesting all worlds, and his kalpa was gladly seen for 12,000 years. The bodhisattva wonderful sound employed 100,000 types of musical instruments to Buddha, Cloud Thunder Sound King, and he also presented to him 84,000 alms bowls made of the 7 treasures. In recompense for these actions, he has now been born in the of the Buddha, pure flower, consolation, king, wisdom, and possesses the supernatural power, flower virtue. What is your opinion? The bodhisattva souls. Was he someone unknown to you? In fact, he is none other than the Bodhisattva and Mahasattva. Wonderful sound, who is here now? Flower virtue, this Bodhisattva. Wonderful sound has already made offerings to and waited on an immeasurable number of Buddhas long ago. He planted the roots of virtue and encountered hundreds, thousands, and thousands, millions of dayutas of Buddhas, equal in number to the sense of flower virtue. You see only the body of Bodhisattva. Wonderful sound which is here, but this Bodhisattva manifests himself in various different bodies and preaches his sutra for the sake of living beings in various different places. At times he appears as King Brahma, at times as Lord Shakra, at times as a heavenly being freed, at times as a great general of heaven, at times as the heavenly King Vaishrabhana, at times as a wheel-turning sage king, at times as one of the petty, times as a rich man, at times as a householder, at times as a Brahmin, at times as a monk, a nun, a layman, believer, or at times as the wife of a rich man or a household, at times as a young boy or a young girl, at times as a heavenly being, a dragon, a yaksha, a gandharva, an asura, a garuda, a kimnada, a mahodaga, a human or a non-human being, and so preaches the sutra. The hell dwellers, hungry spirits, beasts, and the numerous others who are in difficult circumstances are thus all able to be, and for the sake of those who are in women's quarters of the royal palace, he changes himself into a woman's form and preaches his sutra. If the form of a voice hearer is what is needed to bring salvation, he manifests himself in the form of a voice hearer and proceeds to preach the law. The Buddha will bring salvation, he manifests himself in the Buddha and preaches the law. If the form of a Bodhisattva will bring salvation, he manifests a Bodhisattva, preaches the law. If the form of a Buddha will bring salvation, he immediately manifests a Buddha form and preaches the law. Thus he manifests himself in various different forms depending upon what is appropriate for salvation. It is appropriate to enter extinction in order to bring salvation. He manifests himself as entering extinction. Flower virtue, the Bodhisattva, Mahasattva, flower, and the power of wisdom that enable him to do all this. At the time the Bodhisattva flower virtue said to the Buddha, world honored one, this Bodhisattva wonderful sound has planted the roots of goodness deeply. World honored one, what samadhi does this Bodhisattva dwell in? He is able to carry out all these transformations and manifestations to save living beings. The Buddha said to Bodhisattva, for virtue, good man, this samadhi is called manifesting all kinds of bodies. The Bodhisattva wonderful sound dwelling in the samadhi is able in this manner to enrich and benefit living beings. When the Buddha preached this chapter on Bodhisattva wonderful sound, the 84,000 persons who had come with Bodhisattva wonderfuls all attained the samadhi, enabling them to manifest all kinds of bodies. And the immeasurable Bodhisattva in the Saha world also attained the samadhi. And Dharani chapter 25, the universal gateway of the Bodhisattva, perceiver of the world sounds at the time. Inexhaustible intent immediately rose from his seat, bared his right shoulder, pressed his palms together, and facing the Buddha spoke these words. World honored one replied with wonderful speech, I now ask you once again, for what reason the Buddha's son is named perceiver of the world sounds? The existence. Suppose someone should conceive a wish to harm you, should push you in great pit of fire. Think on the power of that perceiver of sounds, and the pit of fire will change into a pond. If you should be cast adrift on the vast ocean, menaced by dragons, fish, and various demons, think on the power receiver of sounds, and the billows and waves cannot drown you. Suppose you are on the peak of Mount Sumeru and someone pushes you off. Think on the power of that perceiver of sound will hang in midair like the sun. Suppose you are pursued by evil men who wish to throw you down from a diamond mountain. Think on the power of the perceiver of sounds, and they cannot harm a hair of you. Suppose you are surrounded by evil-hearted bandits, each brandishing a knife to wound you. Think on the power of that perceiver of sounds, and at once all will be swayed by compassion. Suppose you encounter trouble with the king's law, face punishment, about to forfeit your life. Think on the power of that perceiver of sounds, and the executioner's sword will be broken to bits. Suppose you are imprisoned in cage and locked hands and feet, bound by fetters and chains. Think on the power, and they will fall off, leaving you free. Suppose with curses and various poisonous herbs someone should try to injure you. Think on the power of that perceiver of sounds, and the injury will rebound upon the originator. Suppose you encounter evil rakshasas, poison dragons, and various demons. Think on the power that perceiver of sounds, and then none of them will dare to harm you. If evil beasts should encircle you, their sharp fangs and claws inspiring terror. Think on the power of that perceiver of sounds, and they will scamper in boundless retreat. If lizards, snakes, vipers, scorpions threaten you with poison breath that sears like flame, think on the power of that perceiver of sounds, and hearing your voice they will flee of themselves. If clouds should bring thunder and lightning strike, if hell pelts or drenching rain comes down, think on the power receiver of sounds, and at the moment they will vanish away. If living beings encounter weariness or peril, immeasurable suffering pressing them down, the power of the perceiver of sounds, wonderful wisdom, can save them from the suffering of the world. He is endowed with transcendental powers and widely practices the expedient means of wisdom throughout the lands in the 10 directions. There is no region where he does not manifest himself in many different kinds of evil circumstance. The realms of hell, hungry spirits or beasts, the sufferings of birth, old age, sickness, and death, all these he bit by bit wipes out. He of the true gaze, the pure gaze, the gaze of great and encompassing wisdom, the gaze of pity, the gaze of compassion. Constantly we implore him, constantly look up in reverence. His pure light, free of blemishes, the sun of wisdom, dispelling all darkness. He can quell the wind, fortune and everywhere bring light to the world. The precepts from his compassionate body shake us like thunder. The wonder of his sympathetic mind is like a great cloud. He sends down the sweet dew, the Dharma rain. Lawsuits bring in the midst of an army. Think on the power of that perceiver of sounds, and hatred in all its form will be dispelled. Wonderful sound, perceiver of the world sounds, Brahma sound, the Sitai sound, they surpass those sounds of the world. Therefore you should constantly think on them from thought to never entertaining down. Perceiver of the world sounds, pure sage in those in suffering, in danger of death. He can all aid and support, endowed with all benefits. He views living beings with compassionate eyes. The sea of his immeasurable, therefore you should bow your head to him. At the time the Bodhisattva earth holder immediately rose from his seat, advanced and said to the Buddha, world honored one, beings who hear this chapter on Bodhisattva, perceiver of the world sounds, on the freedom his actions, his manifestation of a universal accidental powers. It should be known that the benefits these persons gain are not few. In the Buddha preached this chapter on the universal gateway, a multitude of 84,000 persons in the assembly all conceived the determination to attain the unparalleled state of Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. Page 171. Heart of the Prajna Paramita, the Bodhisattva Avalokita, while moving in the discourse of Prajna Paramita, shed light on the 5 skandhas and found them equally empty. After this penetration, he overcame ill-being. Listen, Shariputra, form is emptiness, emptiness is form, form is not. That emptiness, emptiness is not other than form. The same is true with feelings, perception, mental formations, and consciousness. Listen, Shariputra, all dharmas are marked with emptiness. They are neither produced nor destroyed, neither defiled nor immaculate, neither increased. Emptiness, there is neither form nor feelings, no perceptions or mental formations or consciousness, no eye or ear or nose or tongue or body or mind, no form, no sound, no smell, no taste, no touch, no object. Realms of elements, no interdependent origins and no extinction of them, no ill-being, no cause of ill-being, no end of ill-being, and no path, no understanding, no attainment, because there is no attainment. The Bodhisattva's grounded in from illusion and realizing perfect nirvana. All Buddhas in the past, present, and future arrive at Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. Therefore, one should know that perfect understanding is the highest mantra, the unequaled mantra. Visible truth, a mantra, Prajna Paramita should therefore be proclaimed. Gate, gate, pada, sam gate, bodhi swaha, gate, gate, pada, sam gate, bodhi swaha, gate, gate, pada, sam gate, bodhi swaha. Sentient beings are limitless. I vow to liberate them. Afflictions are endless. I vow to liberate them. Teachings are infinite. I vow to learn them. Buddhahood is supreme. I vow to attain. I vow that from now until the end of my life and in all future lives until I attain Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi, that I will help all sentient beings in all realms of existence and their suffering. Namo, thus come one worthy of offerings, a proper and usual Bodhisattvas, Namo Deva guarding Bodhisattvas, Namo Deva guarding Bodhisattvas. I take refuge in the Buddha, the one who shows me the way in this life. I take refuge in the Dharma, the way of understanding and of I take refuge in the Sangha, the community that lives in harmony and awareness. Dwelling in the refuge of Buddha, I clearly see the path of light and beauty in the world. Dwelling in the refuge of Dharma, I learn to open many doors on the path of transformation. Dwelling in the refuge of Sangha, shining light thus supports me, keeping my practice free of obstruction. Taking refuge in the Buddha, in myself I aspire to help all people recognize their own awakened nature, realizing the mind of love, taking refuge in the Dharma. In myself I aspire to help all people fully master the ways of practice and walk together on the path of liberation, taking refuge in the Sangha. In myself I aspire to help all people build fourfold communities to embrace all beings and support their transformation. Reciting the sutras, practicing the way of awareness gives rise to benefits without limits. We vow to share the fruits with all beings. We vow to offer tribute to parents, teachers, friends, and numerous beings who give guidance and support along